Have you ever played a Pokemon game and just realized you never explored the whole game, and the more you think about it, you just realized all you ever done was what you were supposed to do and nothing else? Like never going to the post-game areas like Stark Mountain, Spring Path, the survival area, or just going back to places that you forgot about because you need certain HMs. Like how much did I miss out on, or did I not miss out on anything? Does it make the game more refreshing to go back to and play? So as I kept thinking about it, let's find out and explore Sinnoh for the first time. Now I got 3 goals for this. My first goal is to talk to every NPC I can find. Now obviously I'm not going to be showing you every person I talk to, but I will talk about the NPC that says something I didn't know about or I just found them interesting. For the trainers, I'll probably just mention if they had a unique Pokemon or something, because there's usually not that much to talk about with them. My second goal is to collect as many items as I can, just because I never pick up items unless I know I need them. So I just want to see what items I missed out on. Now that does mean any really useful items I probably won't talk about, as I already know about them and that would be the whole point. But anyways, at the very end I'll show all the items I have in my bag, because there's always a lot. My last goal is to explore the whole game and just look everywhere, see what towns and routes that I missed out on. Now usually I'd say that I also want to do this without any help, so no guides or YouTube, just me in the game, but not this time. I'd rather sleep with a hot pillow than go through the distortion world without a guide. I just can't do it. But that's the only time I use it, I swear. Anyways, if I miss items, areas, or people, it's just part of the experience. So with that, we grab a Chimchar that I named Mayo and we get started. There wasn't anything new besides needing a couple HMs, but we'll have to wait a bit before we can do that. It wasn't until we were in Jubilife City where we meet this girl at the trainer school who says Pokemon are smart enough to use items that they hold, but they won't know what to do with man-made items like potions and antidotes. And honestly, I never thought about it like that. To me, it was just something you couldn't do, and that was that. Also, once you fight this kid and talk to him again, he will give you a potion. I found that out on accident. Maybe I should talk to the NPCs a bit more. Hey guys, feature me here. I never did that. Again. On Route 203, we catch a Bidoof with the intention of using it for the ability pickup, because I just assumed that it had it, but no, it never had that ability. But it's okay, I'll just shove a bunch of HMs on him. Not too long after, Mayo evolved into a Monferno. In Oreburgh City, we can get a bunch of items like a Great Ball, Dust Ball, Dire Hit, Yellow Shard, and this potion. We also find a person who wants an Abra for a Machop, which I don't really get because you can find one right outside the city, but anyways, we find someone who wants to see a Geodude, so I went ahead and caught one, but I'm not gonna lie, I about left it there as it wouldn't stay in the ball. It took us like 6 tries. So after that, we take it to the person and all they give us is a heal ball. That's it. I shouldn't even have tried that, really. What's even worse is that we also ran into someone who talks about the ability pickup. A way to rub it in. It's safe to say I left a little salty. At the Poke Center, we find someone who talks about Team Galactic and how they claim to have found a great energy source. Rumor has it they steal Pokemon from others by force, so that was interesting. With that, we face Rourke and we just spam Mach Punch until they go down. Now that we have access to Rock Smash, we head to Oreburgh Gate and we get the TM for Flash and a Big Pearl, but we couldn't do anything else since we need a bike. At Ravage Path, we get the TM for Rock Tomb and nothing else because we need Surf. On Route 205 near the Valley Windworks, I was just passing by where I ran into a Shellos and I was like, you know what, let's add it to the team. We name her Relish, and honestly, I'm pretty excited. As we fight all the trainers here, we went and explored Eterna Forest where we had to face a good amount of trainers. And as I was using Relish, I forgot how slow it is. I know, how did I forget? It's literally a slug. But we're not talking about that right now. Anyways, I don't think I recovered from using slow Pokemon since playing Ultra Sun not too long ago. And if you haven't already, check out that video. It was a masterpiece. Subscribe. Anyways, somehow Relish turned into a weasel named Relish too, and how did that happen? We also find a bunch of items in Eterna Forest, but the only thing worth mentioning is the green shard, and honestly, I wonder if I can even collect enough shards to get a move. I always found them too hard to collect, especially in the underground. On Route 205 past Eterna Forest, we find a hidden super potion and a guard spec. In Eterna City, we talked to this Team Galactic grunt, but the grunt backed off as we looked too tough, so he didn't try to steal our Pokemon. And then, I kid you not, 2 seconds later, this bug catcher told us that his friend's Pokemon got got stolen by Team Galactic, but he doesn't believe him and thinks they're cool. That's crazy. I know they're not friends. We also talked to this old man who says Eterna City is not anything like how it was before back in the day, followed up by another person talking about how is this even an old town with all these buildings around, and I wonder what it looked like in the past. We also find a guy who wants a Buizel for a Chatot. No thank you. We also get the TM for recycle, and now they're just making random TMs, cause what even is this? At the Pokemart, we talked to this guy who says he wished he had an escape rope to use in Eterna Forest, and I didn't know you could do that, so you best believe I went and tested it out, and he's a whole liar. It didn't work. I did this for nothing. Man, you know what? I can't believe I fell for that. Near the Palkia statue, there's this house where we can find this old lady who will talk about how the statue used to be the centerpiece of many festivals. And that's kind of sad to hear because it sounds like they don't do festivals anymore. Well, at least that many. With that, we face Gardenia, and I just spam Ember until they go down. But I will say Roserade took a bit longer just because they kept healing. Inside that building, we find that galactic grunt that stole that bug catcher's friend's Pokemon, and I busted out laughing when I read that. Oh my goodness. He stole his house cat and everything. Poor guy. We also find a blue shard and a revive, but other than that, we face Jupiter. And how does their Zubat have Giga Drain? And how did I not notice that before? But you know what? It's alright. We still won. With that, we can actually go back to a couple areas. First, we head to Eterna Forest and we run into Gardenia, and she tells us that there's a rumor that the old chateau is haunted. And you know, since she's a gym leader and she's super busy, she can't check it out. And it's not because she's scared or anything. She tells us good luck and leaves. I actually find that awesome. Nothing I like more than when a character actually has some personality. Now, me personally, I'd run away real quick, but we don't have a choice. We find an Ether, a rare candy, a big pearl, Eau Gateau, a dread plate, and the TM substitute. And that's surprising. I wasn't really expecting much. We can also get a Rotom, but we don't need to encounter it just yet, and now that I think about it, I don't know how to get like Rotom Wash and stuff. I also realized that we have to come back to Route 205 and explore all the water areas. I just forgot to mention it. Alright, now that we have everything, we go to Route 211 and find a hidden Great Ball, the TM Taunt, and again we'll have to come back with Surf. On Route 207, we find a hidden Pokeball and also an area where we need to use Rock Climb. And on this side of Mount Coronet, we find an Energy Powder and some Stardust. On Route 208, we just have to come back with some HMs, and I'm just now realizing we have to backtrack a lot. So next time, if we have to come back to a place, I probably won't mention it until we have the HM for it, or this is gonna get annoying. In Hearthome City, we can find a guy named Mr. Goods where he will give us an item starting tomorrow. So I wonder what he's gonna give us. I never went back. We can also get an Eevee here, so I named them Sweet and Sour. With that, I head to Amenity Square where we find Secret Power. There was this other area I couldn't get to, so I thought I was doing something wrong, or I was just too dumb to figure it out. But it turns out there's two areas to this place, and all we had to do was go to the other entrance, and we got a couple items like a spooky plate and an amulet coin, so I can't complain. With that, we get to do my personal favorite side game, the Pokemon contest. It turns out it's a bit different from Gen 3. There's 3 stages: presentation, dancing, and acting. It was pretty fun, but as always, I never read the instructions, so I was just winging it, and my goodness, it was so bad. It wasn't even funny. For presentation, they gave you a theme of what you're supposed to dress as, and I didn't really know how to go about it since we didn't have that many options in terms of items we can choose from, so it didn't go that well. Next was dancing, and it was a rhythm game, but my problem was that I didn't know what buttons I was supposed to press, so I was just guessing. I thought it was the A-B buttons, but it turns out to be the D-pad. The last thing was acting, and it was just like the one in Emerald. I was getting a little worried that it wasn't gonna be like that at all, but finally, something I know how to do. But I did pretty bad here, so you know I had to get that rematch. Let's try again. Alright, so for presentation, the theme was The Created, so I went crazy. I gave Mayo sparkles, feathers, a mustache, because why not, and I was ready. The contest goes on and we watch as they go by one, and I was more than confident. I mean, these people could not compare. I mean, come on now. A flower and 2 rocks? Not creative. 2 water droplets? What are we doing here? And then there's us, this masterpiece. I dare say it looks better here. So I know for a fact we easily won that. With that, we move on to dancing, and I had a rough start, I'm not gonna lie, but then I really figured it out, and I say it's 50-50, it could be anyone's game. Now it's time for the final round, acting, my specialty. The first round went pretty smooth, no one did anything crazy, and we all got pretty good scores. But I will say, once everyone did their own moves, the judges will give us more points depending on how well you did, and if the judge liked it, they'll get a star above their head, or if they hate it, they lose a star. Next round, everyone does their own thing, and that's when Dots used takedown, lowering the judge's star back to 0 on one of the judges, which was perfect for me as I used feint on that same judge. And since they don't have any stars, feint does even better, getting 4 hearts. With that, the round ends and the judges give out more hearts, and everyone had about 5 or 6 hearts when one of the judges gives Pid 3 hearts, and since no one else picked the same judge, they get an additional 3 hearts, outclassing me real quick. It's the next round and it was pretty tame, no one did anything crazy, but I did do the best, getting 6 hearts at the end. It's the last round and it's make it or break it time, and unfortunately I broke it. I couldn't use the same move twice, so I used feint even though it wasn't gonna do much, and did pretty bad. Let's hope I did good on the other rounds. With that, the results are in, and somehow 2 other people did just as good in the visual competition, which makes no sense. I did the worst in the dancing competition, and I swear I was going crazy. This is Just Dance all over again. I put in all the effort and score the worst. How? And finally, the acting competition results are in, and I did the best, but since I didn't do good enough in acting, I come in 3rd place, not even 2nd. Oh, that was tough. That was really fun, but I swear these are paid judges, cause ain't no way. With that, we head to the gym where Relish 2 evolved into a Floatzel, and with that we face Fantina, but nothing a little Dread Plate / Crunch can't fix. In Solocian Town, if we go inside the Poke Center, we can fight this kid who's dressed as a Pikachu, so you don't see that every day. In the Solocian Ruins, we find this hidden room with 4 items, and we get a Mind Plate, Odd Incense, the HM the Fog, and a Nugget. And honestly, I didn't know that's where you could find the Fog. Other than that, right outside the ruins, you can see an item waiting to get claimed, but I couldn't figure out how to get up there as I just kept going into the same rooms over and over again, so I left. That was the first L I had to take. Wait, never mind. Second L I had to take. On Route 210, there's this cafe where we can battle people, and we ran into 2 Pokemon collectors, as one of them had a Munchlax and the other one had a Heracross, so that was cool to see. I also like how they talk about themselves and how they're usually weak as they don't train their rare Pokemon at all. In Veilstone City, we can fight some reporters in the Poke Center and also find Maylene's dad at the game corner who has a gambling problem. Well, that's something. We also find Looker here and he's gambling as well. Shaking my head, I thought he was supposed to be saving the world or something. With that, we faced Maylene and we did pretty well considering we didn't have a good counter to her Pokemon. Relish took care of Meditite. Mayo was doing pretty okay fighting Lucario, but his downfall was when Lucario used Force Palm, paralyzing us. So since they lowered our speed, we go down. But after that, Relish 2 came back and wiped the floor. After that, we were fighting Team Galactic where Looker pops up, and now I can't take him seriously as he was probably gambling before he got here. On Route 214, we find a hidden Carbos, a Big Root, and a Red Shard. On Route 213, there wasn't much besides this house with a clown inside that will give us the TM Trick Room. In Pastoria City, we find out some cool lore about the Great Marsh, like the reason why they use trams is to prevent damage to the Great Marsh's ecosystem, and I never thought about that. I just thought they did it because going through the Great Marsh sucks. There's also this lady who says the Great Marsh was a part of the sea and that the seawater slowly drained away over time, leaving a huge marsh, and that's why there's rare Pokemon you can only find there, so that was interesting. At the Poke Center, we can fight someone else. At the Pokemon Mansion, there's a gauntlet we can do, and if we manage to beat 5 trainers in 9 turns, we can get a special reward. And since I'd never beaten it before, I was today, and at the very end, it turns out we fight a rich guy named Liam, and they fling a rare candy at us, but since we were holding an item already, we didn't get it, so after the match, we get nothing. I won, but at what cost? There's also this place that's blocked off, so I wonder what it is. We might have to beat the game first, so we'll have to come back later. We can also head back to Pastoria City this way, and besides facing a bunch of trainers, we got a couple items like a blue shard, a full heal, the TM for Silverwind, and a big mushroom. With that, we face Crasher Wake, and since we didn't have a good counter to his team, I decided to switch in and out Relish 2, and with that strategy, it worked really well. But it did take 4 attempts, mostly because Relish 2 would take too much damage to knock out all of his Pokemon, and it didn't help that they would use potions and some of my Pokemon couldn't do as much damage. Between all those attempts, I went ahead and caught a Krogunk that I named Honey Mustard, and it is absolutely cracked. Like, it has a jolly nature, special attack is down, speed is up, I can't complain. On Route 210, I finally used the fog and could actually see what's going on for once, but all I found out was that I need surf and rock climb, and I got neither. In Celestic Town, we found some wise glasses, and I never heard of that before, and it turns out it slightly boosts special attacking moves, so that's nice. Other than that, we find this old man who tells us our Pokemon really loves us, but I know he's lying, cause why is my level 40 EV still not evolved? And no, it's not because it fainted every 2 seconds. Also, I just realized that Dialga and Palkia are literally drawn right there on the wall, and I just never noticed it. They look kind of funky. Alright, now that we have Surf, it's time to backtrack again, and oh man, there's a lot to go through. We had a Lake Verity, but it turns out we can't go there just yet. On Route 219, 220, we find this water path with a couple of trainers and a small island. We ended up finding a splash plate, so that's new. We also find a hidden Big Pearl and a Carbos. On Route 221, I can't say I really explored this place besides coming here for a honey tree. It was honestly bigger than I thought, and we find a pure incense, an old man who tells us today's number being 95, and I didn't think much of it until he said if we show him a 95 Pokemon he will give us an item. No, I can already tell we're gonna be disappointed. We also find the TM X Scissor and a trainer with a Togetic, so that was pretty cool. Besides that, there's that PAL part we can't do, but this was a cool area. In Orbit Gate, we find a veteran trainer, which is a trainer class that I didn't know existed in this generation, who had a Riolu, so that was fun. With 2 items there, but we need strength, so we'll have to come back later. At the Ravage Path, we get to an area I've never seen before, but it wasn't that big, so it was pretty easy to get around. We did find a Luck Incense and the TM for Water Pulse. At the Fuego Ironworks, we can find the guy who runs the place, and if we give him some star pieces, he will give us some shards. So I thought he would just give us one of our choosing, but he actually gives us one of everything, so that was really cool to know. Maybe getting these shards aren't as bad as I thought. In Eterna City, we find a hidden moonstone, and that's when I remembered, crap, I forgot to explore Route 206. So we go there and head to Wayward Cave, and it was surprisingly really big. The whole time I was like, there's more? There was a bunch of double battles for some reason, but we ended up finding some shards, the TM for Double Team, a hidden Great Ball. I will say having Flash is a must because this whole area looked the same. We ended up finding a pink-haired girl named Mira, and it turns out she's actually lost, so we help her go back to the entrance, and oh, that's why there were so many double battles. I was supposed to do it with her. Oh my goodness. Well now I gotta see what Pokemon she has. So I just did a random wild battle and she uses a Kadabra, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We reach the entrance and she thanks us and leaves, and that was pretty interesting. I wonder if we'll run into her again. Also, I just realized, how messed up is that? How many times have you played this game and not rescued her? That's crazy to think about. Poor girl. Also, there's no need to talk about the secret cave as I've already explored that thing before. On Route 208, we still need a couple HMs, so all we ended up doing was facing a fisherman that finally made Sweet and Sour evolve. It's about time. On Route 212, we find a rose incense. Route 214, we find a rare candy. And on Route 213, there was a water path that I've never seen, and it was small, but it led to different areas, and we find a max revive, a water stone, a hidden Big Pearl, so that was huge. Not too long after, Honey Mustard evolved. On Route 218, we find a rare candy, and in Canalave City, someone will give us the TM for skill swap, which isn't good. At the library, if you press on the bookshelf, they'll actually give you stories to read, and holy cow, some of these are wild. I don't think I should fully talk about them because you need to read them for yourself, but let me just give you a little snippet. There was 2 stories that really stood out to me. One was about a man who had gotten his first sword and started killing and eating Pokemon without a care in the world. So much so, it sounded like he started to kill for fun, as the Pokemon he didn't eat, he just threw away. A year later, there was no more Pokemon appearing, causing the area to wither away. So he goes on a journey far and wide to find a Pokemon, and one day he finally finds one and asked, "Why do you hide?" The Pokemon replied, "To be continued." The other story was about some Sinnoh folklore where they talk about how they eat Pokemon they catch in the sea, and to make sure not to waste any of the meat and thank them for the meal they provided. They put the bones back into the sea as they believe the Pokemon will return with new flesh and start life all over again. Yeah, that was some crazy stuff if you ask me. I can't believe that I never bothered to read these things before. It's probably because these new Pokemon games suck so much, I gotta find other ways to enjoy the older games. At the Iron Island, we can find a bunch of good items like star pieces, a protector, yellow shard, elixir, the TM for Iron Tail, a magnet. And as we were doing double battles with Riley, he will talk about a lot of things and hit us with some lore. He told me that Byron asked him to be a gym leader but wasn't sure because he thought maybe his son Rourke should be considered. I guess he doesn't know, but Rourke took on the job, so that was something. With that, we faced Byron, but he didn't stand a chance at all. On Route 211, there's someone who gives us the TM for Psych Up, and we have to come back here with Rock Climb. On one side of Mount Coronet, we find the TM for Rock Polish, a rare candy, a hidden green shard, a light clay, soft sand, and a hidden nugget. On Route 217, we find a bunch of items. Most of these were hidden, but we find Ultra Balls, rare candies, spell tags, max repels, blue shards, revival herbs, protein, an icicle plate, iron, and a nugget. Yeah, I was going crazy. In Snow Point City, we found a rare candy and a move tutor, and for once we actually have enough shards to get something, but this dude sucked. He gave us the worst moves ever, so I didn't teach anyone anything. I did forget to mention at some point I did teach my Pokemon Ice Punch, but I kind of forgot where I did it. Anyways, we also see this tempo we can never do, and after that we fight Candice and she didn't stand a chance either. We were spamming Flamethrower. Now that we have the HM for Rock Climb, it's time to backtrack again, and on Route 107 we get a Timer Ball and an Iron. At the Lake Valor Lakefront, there's this place where we can use Rock Climb, but it's very hard to see, so you can easily miss it. It took me like a while to figure it out because I was like, there's clearly a way you can get here, I just can't find it. We end up getting an Iron and the TM for Dream Eater. We can also get to this house where we find a couple inside, and the lady says the reason why they're here is because the guy lost the bet. Oh, apparently it's musty, old, and smelly. That's crazy. If we talk to the guy, he will give us an app for a coin toss, and that's what she meant. I thought he lost it all at the game corner. We also find a protein and a sunstone. On Route 210, we find this old lady who probably teaches Draco Meteor, as she says she came from a tribe of dragon tamers, but since we didn't have a dragon type, we couldn't get it. On Route 208, we find someone with a Probo Pass, and what a brave soul. And at the Galactic HQ, we ended up finding some scientists, and they talk about how they feel awful because the experiments went too far and they feel sick, to say anything else. They ended up making something, and I'm not sure what it is or what it's going to be used for. So as we continue with the story, Cyrus crafted a red chain and summoned a portal, and oh my goodness. The red chain is made up of those crystals on the forehead and tails of the Lake Guardians. How did I not figure that out? And that's crazy. How many times did they rip them out? You know, maybe I should start reading the story more. On Mount Coronet, I went to the wrong entrance, but it's okay. I needed to come here anyway because we need to use Rock Climb. We found a metal herb and max potion and the TM for Ice Beam. I always wondered where you could find it. Too bad my Pokemon can't learn it. Besides that, it was a small area with some trees. The only sucky part was how slow you had to walk, but nothing a little fast forward can't fix. Anyways, once we head to the right entrance, I went full on detective mode and I found so many hidden items, it was crazy. I can't believe I found all of these. I mean, I was fighting hidden items as I played the game, but I think I got too good at fighting them to the point I was hoping I wasn't gonna find anything. Usually I'd say every item we got, but this time there was just too many. We found shards for restore, star pieces, rare candies, and some evolution stones. After everything goes down, we end up at Spring Path, and it's a really nice area full of flowers, a nice lake, but not much else. There is a cave here that I have to go back to, but I'm not gonna lie, I forgot about this. On Route 222, we find a hidden full restore, a tiny and big mushroom, a guy who wants to see a giant Remoraid, so we'll have to try that later. At Sunny Shore City, I found out that the blue bridges we can walk on are actually giant solar panels, and I did not know that. I wonder if it gets so hot it melts the bottom of their shoes. We also find this lady who wants us to stop by every day to tell her stories starting tomorrow, and I guess I'll do that tomorrow. I did not do that tomorrow. With that, we fight Faulkner, and with Sweet and Sour, we use Dig to take out Jolteon, and then use Earthquake and Poison Jab to take out the rest of his team. So it was pretty easy overall. With that, we get the HM for Waterfall, and again, it's time to go back to a couple places, but honestly, it wasn't that good. We did find a Meadow Plate, a Wave Incense, a Stone Plate. At Victory Road, we found a Hidden Nugget, a trainer who had a whole Torterra, a Hard Scale, a Rare Candy, the TM for Dark Pulse, and we also have to come back here as this person is blocking the way. With that, we faced the Elite Four, but we trashed 3 of them. Aaron didn't stand a chance. Agatha was super easy as well, but Wishcash took a bit longer to go down as they kept healing, and Flint got one shot by everything. Now Lucian, oh my goodness, I got destroyed 2 to 3 times. Easy. Once he sent out Gallade, he had a counter to every Pokemon on my team and did massive damage. It didn't help that we couldn't finish him off and they would heal, so it was rough. But after those attempts, I taught Shadow Claw to Mayo, and that made the difference, as Relish 2 could do massive damage with Crunch, and with Mayo still alive, we take Bronzong out with ease. After that, it did not get any easier as we had to face Cynthia, and this was a whole different story. The main problem is that Spiritomb is a brick wall that tanks hits like it's nothing, and some of its moves are very strong against our Pokemon, and we needed all of our Pokemon to be at full health if we wanted to stand a chance. We did have Sweet and Sour, but we couldn't stall with Toxic for as long as I wanted, as they had Silver Wind, and sometimes they would get the boost, destroying our team. I tried using other Pokemon, but we didn't do nearly as much as we needed to, and it was not a fun time. And if we did manage to beat Spiritomb, her other Pokemon had great counters to our team, so it was not fun in the slightest. But a couple attempts later, and I got a run of a lifetime. I still use the Toxic strat and spam Dig so the poison can do as much damage as possible, and they go down and we live with 61 HP. She sends out Lucario and we switch into Mayo and use Flamethrower to one-shot them. Her next Pokemon is Milotic, so we switch back into Sweet and Sour and they go first and use Surf, but we live with 4 HP and land a Toxic. After that, Sweet and Sour goes down. We send out Honey Mustard and spam Poison Jab while they use Mirror Coat, but it never worked, and with Toxic they go down. Next is Togekiss and we use Ice Punch, but it didn't do nearly as much, and we get one shot with Air Slash. We sent out Mayo and use Stone Edge, and we were so close, but it wasn't enough. But we catch a lucky break as Air Slash missed. They heal and we were able to use 2 more Stone Edges before going down to an Air Slash. We send out Relish and finish them off with Ice Punch. Her next Pokemon is Roserade and we use another Ice Punch, but they live with 1 HP and I thought it was over. But then they get frozen. The luck is insane. They heal, but this time we knock them out. Her last Pokemon is Garchomp and we use another Ice Punch doing massive damage. And as long as we can live, one of her moves will win. She uses Earthquake and I'm still scared as Relish 2 is made out of paper. But we live with 22 HP and next turn we win the fight. That was insane. Usually for these videos I wouldn't go this far into what happened, but this was just too crazy not to talk about. With that, we beat the game and now it's time for post game. We head off to the fight area, but surprisingly there wasn't that many new things. We did see a Torchic that was weird looking, but besides that, if we head to the Pokemart, a lady will give us a scope lens, so that was nice. Other than that, I wonder if we're still in the Sinnoh region as the trees look different, and if it makes sense, the grass looks different as well. With this whole area explored, we go off to the Battle Frontier, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'm gonna battle at all. So with that, I visit the shops, and as always they have a bunch of held items you can get, but we also find the power items, and I didn't know it started here. I thought it was Gen 7. TM wise, they got a really good selection, but 80 battle points is kind of crazy. Anyways, I'm a liar. I want to try the Battle Factory. It's super fun. You have to rent out Pokemon that they give you and try to win with them. It's a bit different here, as once you beat a trainer you can swap out one of your Pokemon for theirs, so that was awesome. I ended up in the finals but came out short. It sucked too because I was so close to winning, and again I walked out taking an L. After that, I tried leaving the area and it turns out it's still blocked off, so I was confused for a while, but I figured it might have to do with the Pokédex. Luckily for me, I only needed to see like 5, so I just did that real quick. Now that we have everything, we head back to the fight area, and sure enough, everything opens up. On Route 225, we find some Pokemon from different generations like Raticate, Banette, and Fearow. I'm not sure if there was more Pokemon just because it's nighttime and that might change who we see. Trainer wise, they had a lot of different Pokemon. We saw Tailo, Arbok, Skarmory, Starmie, Vibrava, and Lantern. Honestly, this is peak Pokemon design. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if they went back to this style. They all looked so good. Item wise, we find some HP ups, rare candies, big mushrooms, a revive, a lax incense, a dubious disc, a green shard, a hidden ultra ball, and a dawnstone. Overall, I really liked the area. Even though it was nighttime, it still looked pretty vibrant, and even though it was hard to get through, running around and seeing what was new was all worth it. I'm also not the best at describing things, but they had some nice grass, nice trees, a nice mountain with a pond or lake, I don't know what it is. At the survival area, we found the cameraman who talks about the TV program called Search for the Red Gyarados, and that it was him who documented it. And man, that is so cool. We saw that on TV at the beginning of the game. We also find the TM for Facade and a house that was locked. On Route 226, if we use Rock Climb, we can find a red shard and another person who's a move tutor. There was some lame ones like Mud Slap for Sweet and Sour, but some cool ones for Mayo like Heat Wave and Gunk Shot. There's also an area where we use Rock Climb a lot, and even though it felt kinda slow, doing it every time, I didn't mind at all. I found it fun. We ended up finding quite a few items here as well, like a lagging tail, the TM for energy ball, and a tiny and big mushroom. There was also a little island with a heart scale, and found a guy who changed the language of our Pokédex, but either he's lying or I just couldn't figure it out. He also wants to trade, but he gives you a Magikarp, so I think I'm good. On Route 207, the environment changes and now there's ash falling from the sky, but to be fair, we are heading towards a mountain, so you know everything looks ugly. We ended up finding a yellow shard, a charcoal, and a star piece. At Stark Mountain, we found a life orb, a max elixir, and we also run into some Team Galactic members like the scientist named Charon or Sharon, one of the two, I don't know. And apparently he's the new leader, and Mars and Jupiter are there as well. They want to know what happened to Cyrus, but once we tell them, they don't believe us, so we fight. After we win, they decide they don't want to do this anymore and quit. They say they're going back to being ordinary girls and leave. After that, whatever his name is continues on with a couple grunts as they look for a certain rock to make a lot of money and leave. After that, we do our own thing, but I wonder if we can find Jupiter and Mars anywhere. Anyways, we find a couple items and also team up with a guy named Buck because he wants that rock back where it belongs, but I've actually done this before, so I really just explored the area, and this place was huge. For what? I kind of just stayed in one spot until I was running in circles before moving on. We did a bunch of double battles and they had a lot of Hoenn Pokemon. Like I said before, they look amazing. I tried to see if there was any cool Pokemon in the area, but all we found was a Macargo and Weezing. We did find some good items as well, like Overheat, a Flame Plate, a rare candy, and a Max Revive. We did do some more story and find out that Saturn actually stayed with Team Galactic while a whole different group went with Sharon, or at least 2 people did anyway. They steal that expensive rock where Looker actually comes out and takes it back, so he actually does something for once. Once the grunts found out they brought back up, they run away immediately. And Sharon tries to play innocent, but it doesn't work and gets arrested. That's crazy. With that all done, we go right back to Stark Mountain, but with Rock Climb, and found okay items. At this point, I got so many of these items, I wasn't really interested in them anymore. And out of anything with Rock Climb, it was just a big shortcut to Heatran. With that, we come back to the survival area and talk to Buck, and it turns out he's the one who owns that house that was locked, and it's a place where gym leaders and people they recommend come and battle, so that's cool. I always like having rematches with gym trainers with new and higher level Pokemon, and I faced all of them but lost to Fantina, unfortunately. I also ran into Byron and Gardenia, so I definitely have to come back here and see who else we can find. After that, we hit a Route 228, which turned out to be a desert area with heavy sandstorms, and I would say it was a smaller area compared to the places we've been to, but it was really interesting as we had to use our bike to get around, and I didn't really have a problem until this one turn where I kept messing up, but it was more of a skill issue really. We ended up finding a Max Repel, a Protector, some really hard trainers, and a hidden cave. That's a new one. It's really hard to tell, and I just happened to stumble upon it trying to just move around with the bike, and you really gotta be looking to tell that it's even there. We end up finding a hardstone and a nugget. I also noticed that you don't run into any Pokemon here, which is good, because this place would be so annoying to get through if we also had to run into Pokemon. But other than that, we find a shiny stone, the TM for Sandstorm, a star piece, and a guy who teaches our Pokemon a special move. But since me and Mayo aren't as close as I thought, we couldn't get it. And what do you mean? Don't listen to the Mayo. They don't know what they're talking about. We also find this old man who talks about his grandson who lived in Sunny Shore City and how he got tired of living up to his parents' expectations and he started messing with machinery. He goes on to say how he should have taken care of him but wasn't sure if that would really make a difference. Dang, they're definitely talking about Cyrus. He's dead now. With that, we head to the resort area, and at the Poke Center we fight a trainer who's dressed as a Pikachu again, and that's so cool. That was the first trainer we faced at the Poke Center and the last. After that, I started looking around, and 2 seconds later we own a house. I don't know how that happened. We also found out that Steven Stone lived here, and that was pretty cool. They said that he came here for rare stones, and that is not surprising. But after collecting everything, he left. Anyways, we buy a couch and a bed, and now I'm in debt. But next thing you know, Lucas appears and won't leave. I guess the more stuff we get, the more people we know will come and visit or something. Either way, they gotta pay up. I'm too poor out here. We also try to get into a nice looking mansion, but they said that we have to have a lot of ribbons. But that's gonna take a while, and I'm already in a time crunch, so it looks like we'll never know. We did find a guy in a pool who tells us there's something lurking in the resort area, but no one believes him, so if we believe him, we should get our super rods and find out. Oh yeah, I'm definitely doing this, though I will save this for a bit later. With that, we had a route 228 where it was a small area with a bunch of trainers, some items here and there, and we did run into someone who just gives us 2 to 3 nuggets, because why not? We also find some new Pokemon, but they're not worth mentioning. Alright, now that we've done that, let's go back to the places I missed or things I wanted to try out. It wasn't looking good at first, as Mr. Goods does not give us a good item and we still can't go inside that room in the Pokemon Mansion. I guess you just can't get in there, but after that it got better. On Route 221 we talked to the guy with the lucky numbers, and finally something we can do. Today's lucky number is 51, so now we just gotta find a Pokemon that's at that level. But all I did was head to one of the post game areas, caught a high level of Machoke, and then spam rare candies until it was at the right level. Once we talk to him again, he gives us a black belt. Finally, a good item. In Orberg Gate, we find an Earth Plate and the TM for Focus Punch. Now that we have that, we head to Sunny Shore City and talk to that lady who wanted us to tell her some stories, but she's a liar as she tells us stories instead, and talks about how her husband bought her a dress that doesn't fit, and we said no way, and she gives us a ribbon. I'm not sure what I was expecting, but I did not think we were gonna get that. On Route 222, we talked to the fisherman who wanted to see a big Remoraid that's at least 23 inches. I thought it would be really hard, but it only took us 3 tries before we found one that was 26.5 inches. As a reward, we get a netball, and okay, I should have known the rewards suck. At the resort area, we talked to that guy in the pool who talks about there being a rare Pokemon in the water, and it turns out we can find a level 80 Magikarp that has a speed of 153. That's pretty insane. I wonder if it keeps its speed once it evolves. Hey guys, future me here. I forgot to save the game, so we'll never know. I will say, I thought this would take a while to do, but it took about 5 minutes. With that, we only have 2 places to explore, so let's get started. The first place we head to is Victory Road and head to that place that was previously blocked before. We meet this girl named Marley who wants us to help her, so we do. I try to talk to her to see if we can learn more about her, but she just says we talk too much, and you know what? Fair enough. After that, she only says one other thing, and that's about a Pokemon among flowers, and I'm pretty sure she's talking about Shaman, a Pokemon we can't get. Shaking my head. Besides that, we do a bunch of double battles, do a couple mazes, and surf some ponds. We did find some good items too, like a rare candy, leftovers, a dust stone, so I can't complain. Once we reach the exit, Marley leaves and we end up on Route 224, and what a nice little area. It's not big at all, but it was very charming to go through. There's a bunch of grass with trash Pokemon, a beach looking area, a trainer with a Metagross, and we find this rock that looks like a Blastoise Blastoise laying down, but I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. We also find a bunch of items, but the only thing worth mentioning is a couple pearls, an upgrade, and a destiny knot. I also thought we would run into Marley again, but nope, she's nowhere to be seen, so we can probably find her in Buck's house, probably anyway. Oh yep, she's there. Now the last place we can explore is Turnback Cave, and as you can guess, you can't use an escape rope, so I left. Forget that. Nah, I'm just kidding. I thought I would be here for a while as I suck at solving puzzles, but it didn't take that long. There was a bunch of rocks placed in each room, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I just kept roaming around until I stumbled upon the final room. We ended up getting a rare bone, and it turns out we can go back to the distortion world. Here we go again. This time I wasn't going to use a guide, I was committed. But it turns out we can't go that far, so you really can't get lost, so we ended up getting an orb that I can't pronounce. With that, we have fully explored Sinnoh for the first time, so the big question is, what's in our bag? What Pokemon do we have? How many Pokemon have we seen, and how long did it take? Honestly, we have too many things in our bags, so I'm just going to talk about the more interesting ones. We got a bunch of shards that we either found or traded to get with star pieces. We got 10 nuggets, this orb I can't pronounce, a lagging tail, a life orb, a destiny knot, a rare bone, a bunch of plates, a bunch of evolution items, and a lot of incense. We also have like 18 rare candies and 10 full restores and some revival herbs. TM wise, we got some pretty cool stuff like Sludge Bomb, Energy Ball, Dragon Pulse, Dark Pulse, and X Scissor. When it comes to Pokemon we have in our box, we really don't have much. There is that Magnemite that I forgot to mention and never ended up putting on my team. But other than that, these are Pokemon I had already mentioned before, besides that Togepi that I hatched and that Wooper I accidentally caught at the Great Marsh. We also seen a total of 306 Pokemon, and honestly, it feels like I've seen the same 60 Pokemon. And with that, it's taken me 50 hours to fully go through the game, but it's a little messed up as I did speed up the game when it came to battling. Overall, this was really fun and actually took a while to do, and at first I wasn't really a fan of Gen 4 as most of its cool new Pokemon are trade evolutions, Lucas and his ugly hat, and Diamond and Pearl being so slow. But going around and exploring the areas that I've never been to really changes how you view a game. This time around, I could care less about the Pokemon and just love the areas you can go to and explore. If you like this video and want to see more stuff like this, like and subscribe as it really helps out the channel as these videos can take a while to make. With that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and until next time, see ya.